Well, hello everyone, and welcome to, I believe it is our sixth Facebook Live, introducing all of you to the wonderful speakers we're going to be having at our 2026 International Reflexology Conference. My name is Laura, and I am so thrilled to be joined today with Geraldine Villeneuve from the United States, who'll be coming to share all of her wonderful knowledge and experience with us in Winnipeg this May at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. And she'll be sharing with us one of the protocols that she has developed over her many years, over almost 4 decades of reflexology.
Wow.
Yeah, a reflexology experience. So thank you so much, Geraldine, for joining me today.
Thank you, Laura. It's really wonderful to be here with all of you and who's ever joining. I greatly appreciate that you've decided to join. And I'm excited to find out what you want to know about structural reflexology. So I'm here for questions, and I'll let Laura have the floor. I'm also very excited about coming to Winnipeg. I've never been there before, and join the other wonderful speakers there to celebrate the 50th anniversary of your organization. That's very impressive.
Well, we're excited to welcome you to Winnipeg. If those of you who are joining us live on Facebook, please feel free, add your questions to the comments. I'll check throughout, maybe get to most of them at the end. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube, feel free to still comment. We're going to still be checking YouTube comments and trying to answer questions as they come up. But let's get started, set the scene for everyone. Geraldine, what is structural reflexology, and why might a reflexology therapist want to learn this approach?
Well, reflexology therapy encompasses both local and reflexive approaches to working with feet. Primarily, I know there's a lot of microcosms that we could be addressing, but we're talking about mechanics, foot mechanics, and how faulty foot mechanics influence reflex activity and compensation in the body. So our aim as structural reflexologists is to release ligament and muscle stress that overlap with reflexes, and so we can improve foot function, improve posture, and freedom to have the range of movement that your feet are designed to give you. So there's a lot. It's really encompassing as far as anatomy and physiology, kinesiology, but that's it's not a prerequisite to knowing how to do this. So it's really fun, very rewarding, and efficiently effective.
So what is the typical client that you might see that you would feel like this approach would benefit the most?
Well, I think this approach is very beneficial for anyone walking into your office, honestly. It's comprehensive in the way that you're addressing local foot pain. Is usually my clientele, or people find me because they have foot problems and they've heard I have a technique that is successful and in relieving foot pain and foot problems on all levels of severity, from acute to severe. They can definitely gain progress in their healing. So I would say most of the people that find me are foot problem clients. Okay. Very few nowadays, although I started this way, just doing reflexology therapy. It's really come down to the need that people come to me just for structural reflexology, for foot pain relief. So you get a lot of referrals from people that don't know how to do what I do, and that includes chiropractors, medical doctors, nurses, physical therapists, reflexologists, which is really exciting for me because that's primarily what I've always done for the last 40 plus years. And I'm keeping it within that scope of practice because I want reflexologists to start emerging into a greater scope of collaboration with other healthcare professionals. So you have to have the language. That's the common, that's your bridge to getting a connection into other healthcare therapies because they don't know reflexology. You're the expert. We're the experts. We know reflexology so well, but they're outside of that island in a way. And I really know that it would be very appreciated and accepted in the field, other healthcare fields, because it is with me right now. If you just meet them where they are, know your muscles of the foot because you're dealing with feet. Some of the ligaments have some language behind your work as a reflexologist, so you can meet them and invite them into our field.
I love that. Let's talk a little bit more about working alongside other healthcare professionals because that's one of the key aspects of our conference coming up in May is getting reflexology to the point where therapists are working alongside all of the other healthcare professionals. So you have a lot of experience with that from our previous conversations and and what you just said. So how do you explain what you do to like a chiropractor, like a podiatrist, like a kinesiologist? Like how do you explain how reflexology can really help their therapy, like for a client to help their therapies be even more impactful?
Well, I have to say, back in the early 90s, when I first started on this quest to introduce reflexology to chiropractors, I was looking for referrals. That was back when I lived in Seattle. So I gave that chiropractor a reflexology session that incorporated some of the structural work that I do. And of course, it's an assessment. This is an assessment-based therapy. And so she wanted to know, what did you find? And I let her know, and I was a little apprehensive to say something because I felt a little intimidated. But I said, along your spine, here I'm getting into her field, I found some thickness right around your arch. And that thickness is related to the area of your thoracic 10 through 12. And so I don't know if you're having issues there. Well, she was not happy with me about that. She thought, how dare I? I mean, I really felt like I blew it. No referrals. But the next day she called me and she said, I just want you to know that I had my colleague check in on my spine after you mentioned that, and I never said anything to him, and he let me know that I was having issues T10 through T12. So from then on, she trusted me. So it was a matter of reaching out, and I think no matter what with reflexology, because it can be so confusing that if you give someone a session, that speaks for itself, and then that opens the door. So I'm in favor of offering your community chiropractors or who you want to target, who you would like referrals from to do that. And then it sort of evolved into I actually had a chiropractor come to me because one of his patients saw me for foot problems, and I was able to alleviate it in 1 or 2 sessions, and he wasn't able to. And so from then on, he said, well, I'm going to come in and see her. I want to see what she does. And I worked with him, and he had a bone growth on the dorsal side of his foot. And what I understood that to be was a dislocation, really, although I can't say that to him. That's out of my scope of practice. But I said, it looks like you had some crowding between your bones, and that bone might be pushing upward. And with the techniques that I do, it releases joint and ligament tension. The ligaments join bone to bone. And by releasing the tension, it opens space for the bone to find a more balanced and better position, which is what happened with him. And he couldn't believe it. He didn't know that was even an option because he was scheduled to have that growth that he thought he had shaved. And he opted
Wow.
not to do it after I was able to create space for that bone to move into. It was one of the cuneiform bones, which I'll be educating you a little bit about in the conference coming up. And he, from then on, I'm he calls me his ace in the hole. You know, I somehow am able to get people because I have an understanding about the feet, but it's more than just understanding bones and muscles and ligaments. It's about the reflexes that they attach to and how they relate to that movement that the muscles provide for the foot, where they attach, influences reflex activity. So I also educate while I am doing. And especially if I'm working with a healthcare professional that's willing to, which they usually are, they want to know, what are you doing? So that's it. It's really about having the information behind you, opening the door, the gateway for professionals to step forward and say, I want in on this. This is effective. And so that chiropractor did a little training with me, but he still refers to me all the time because he says, I don't know what to do with this person. So it's a real honor to be in the position that and that we can all be in as reflexologists, just opening the door, having a little bit more information, and that's happening regardless if it's structural reflexology or other therapies out there that are highly effective. But we just have to be open to raising our standards of understanding a little bit beyond the reflexology therapy world. So if that makes any sense to you.
No, it does. So what I'm understanding is that with structural reflexology, is looking at the foot not just as a static object, right, that we're working on, but looking at understanding the movement, how someone is using their feet or walking, as well as like the muscles and, like you said, the ligaments, where the joints. It's looking at it as a 360 degree how it functions out
Right,
there. Three
three-dimensionally, yeah.
dimensional.
Reaching beyond the standard reflex map. I was hoping I brought one of those maps in to sort of show you. Um, can you all see this? Is that clear, Laura?
Yep, it's clear.
So these are my feet. I drew them. Anyway, those red spots are all muscle attachments, and they overlap with reflexes that I've decided not to color in on this map. So where you see the red spots, say for at the great toe, even the great toe or the small toes, those spots are actually muscle attachments that will change, will power the toes. So those three dots on the toes, those are two different muscles, but they power the toes, they clench, they extend. And when those muscles atrophy or get overworked, they can start to draw the toes and make them curl, or you might get calluses on the dorsal side of that intermediate joint, and suddenly you have sinus problems. So the muscle itself is under tension, creating sinus issues. So we go a bit beyond just the toes being the reflexes of the sinuses to introducing the flexor digitorum longus muscle at the very distal end here as being a contributor to changing position of the toes, which changes the foundation of your body and your toes are meant to stabilize the head and your neck. So when those toes become overly tense from muscle tension, they're not available to do their job to help the posture of your shoulder girdle, really. But it affects the sinuses. So that's just a little idea of where I take my anyone coming into my office, the layperson, they want to know, why do I have this going on with my foot? And I'm able to assess oftentimes, most of the time actually, using prints that they make walking on ink on a print such as this, and making an assessment based on how their feet are carrying their body what is happening in their body reflexively because of this mechanical posturing of this foot. So they're the toes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can see all the darkness. Those, that is telling you there's a lot of tension at that distal toe, which is the attachment of that flexor digitorum longus muscle. So is it enough as reflexologists just to work the toes, work those calluses, and try to work that out? It helps. It definitely helps. But what makes it more dynamic and more lasting is to address the entire muscle, which comes down through the arch and into the back of the leg. So I reflex the entire muscle, not just the toes. And this person was having a lot of sinus problems. You can see here, there's a little dark area at this part of her great toe, and I've drawn a line upward and towards the toe to show the degree of bunion and dislocation.
Mm-hmm.
So this person's putting a lot of weight here on the foot. And there's a muscle that attaches there, so I would release the tension in the muscles that attach at that point, and those muscles are reflexive to whatever this part of the foot is, and in this case, I would read it as the esophagus. So this person also had esophageal reflux. So by releasing tension in that muscle, I'm able, the other foot, sorry, but this is the muscle.
Okay.
By releasing tension in here, I'm able to create space in the joint so the toe has better chance to realign itself and upright itself once I remove the muscle that's pulling the joint too closely together, making a awkward weight distribution along the foot. So this is, I'll spend my sessions involved, especially with professionals or people that really want to learn, I spend about a half hour educating based on the prints that they make. I also measure feet, which is usually why most of these people are experiencing foot problems. And I do get a handful of people who have external trauma, maybe falling off a ladder or things like that, which I'm also able to help as long as it didn't create a situation where they had to have surgery, a lot of surgery and plates. I do help those people too. And so, yeah, it's really fun. I've been doing this for a long time. It continues to evolve. I'm really excited about what I'm going to share at the conference because I've actually taken every single system and separated it from the foot and show you different muscles that would be contributing to maybe the urinary system or the digestive system, the muscles that you would find. So these muscles show up at the reflex sites because they're under such tension, they start to become palpable. So when you're at the adrenal reflex, you say, wow, that's really easily palpable. Well, the reflexology part of me says, yep, that's the adrenal reflex. The structural reflexologist in me says that is the fibularis longus muscle. And I'm going to check that out. So I'll reflex that whole muscle. And as I do that, the adrenal reflex becomes less palpable because I'm relaxing the muscle. So, and I could go on about this.
No, I know. I love it. So let's try and give people
sidebar.
No, let's give people a bit more information. So you're going to come to our conference from May 22nd to 24th. Your conference session is entitled How to Incorporate Foot Assessments in Your Practice. So I know you gave us a little bit of demonstration there. So you're talking about, again, assessment. We're really looking at, I know we talk about in reflexology, we'll look at shape and color and temperature, those, but you're talking, let's go one step further.
Exactly.
How people are putting pressure on their foot, where is this pressure located, how it's related to the muscles, how it's related to the bones, the reflexes. And I understand, so you're going to be showing us how you do these Harris, am I saying it right, Harris ink prints?
Yeah, it's a mat. It's actually This is an old one, so they're blue. They're now green, which is not as pretty. But this is the mat. It's an Apex Harris ink mat.
Okay. Harris ink mat.
Yeah. So this is the inside. It's a rubber membrane. It doesn't have. This is a surface that is walked on, and underneath. So this is the surface that I ink.
Okay.
Can you all see that? Whoops.
Move it just a little. Yeah, perfect.
There. So this is the surface that I put ink on, and I roll it. I put a piece of paper here. I place this down. They walk on it, and it imprints their foot, so I can see how their feet are carrying the weight of their body, and what reflexes may be affected by that their mechanical structure of their foot, how they're using it, and this changes and evolves. So I will be doing that. I actually hope to bring about at least five images from the folks in the audience up on stage to do it live and, show and talk about each one so that you can see how to do this. Hopefully, after my presentation, you'll understand why and how I'm able to assess prints like this, because this is another one, and this one's missing a few toes here. So this person was losing a lot of stability in their skeletal structure, like their knees were breaking down, their hips were breaking down, their shoulder, and they would have numbing in their fingers because just the toes, that part of the foot is not stable enough to hold the side body up. And then I show you what muscles to release as far as tension goes there. It sounds like it's really not that complicated, honestly. And I break it down to each zone.
Okay.
What are you finding in this zone? I hope you're all familiar with zone theory. I'm not sure, but some people are not. But the small toe represents everything in zone 5. Mm-hmm. So I will address certain muscles in zone 5 that'll be contributing to weak toes, releasing the tension, reviving the muscles, and so that when they put their foot on the floor, their toe is very often likely to make contact with the floor after the session. Then their upper shoulders can relax and rest in that weight that the toe provides for the body. But I'll be demonstrating 5. I mean, this is not all I'm doing. Yes, we will be doing that, having a lot of fun with that. With permission.
Where else are these Harris ink prints done? Like, is this done in other healthcare fields, or is this done like?
No, well, not in the same way.
Okay.
Not kinetically. A lot of podiatrists use them, but they only have them stand on it.
Okay.
And then they look for pressure points with just standing. I do this kinetically. You have to walk on and off because I want to know how are those muscles moving your foot. Mm-hmm. Because it's the movement, the kinetic part of movement that is more true to how your feet are carrying your weight as you move. And I will be also showing you why that's so important, that there are 6 stages in one step that we all take. Normally, I mean, not everybody, but normally most people take a pattern of weight bearing along their foot. And for instance, with this person here, they're not taking that pattern. And you don't even know what the pattern is yet. But I know that this person has a lot of scapular issues. They've got suboccipital issues. Their head probably really itches right around zone 2 and 3. And they're placing a lot of weight, but then it gets very slight. So the ink starts to get less prominent when weight is not distributed well. So ideally, in this print, the ink should be the same color, and these cells should be taking the same amount of ink all the way through the step. Where this one's dark, this is going to end up affecting the pelvis. This is dark, it's going to affect Well, definitely the scapular issue, the scapula. If it's chronic enough, it could penetrate into the lungs, bronchioles, things like that. Definitely occipital. So this is what I do with people who come in to see me.
Mm-hmm.
I point these things out and I say this is the reflex of this and that and suboccipital, and they always say that's spot on. It is spot on. What you've said about my feet based on how I'm carrying the weight of my body in this print. I can't, and they wonder how I know. I know because I'm a reflexologist, and I look at feet as a microcosm, as an entirety of the whole body that it's carrying. So I think it's worth it to really expand your knowledge, jump into another level of knowledge about the feet and what they're doing for you on so many levels. If you want to branch into and get referrals from healthcare practitioners, and I think it's time that reflexologists take their place as a profession and get collaboration from other healthcare professionals more often. I know it's happening. There's a lot of brilliant reflexologists out there. It's probably happening very organically. This is just one of the ways you can follow to get there, and it won't take long.
No, I love it. That's the goal. So tying it all together, how do you communicate these map prints or what's happening in the foot when you see these prints to other healthcare providers? So I know you've explained like if they've come for a reflexology session and like explaining like where you're feeling, the tension and releasing all that, but the prints, I'm just curious how, or if you do.
The easiest way is when they come to see me. I do get a lot of healthcare. I get a lot of doctors and people are from referrals, just from word of mouth. All of my practice is word of mouth. I don't do any advertising at all. If I were to go out there, well, I also speak. So I was invited to speak at the annual Chiropractic Association. I was their keynote. So I spoke 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. It was really amazing. But I centered it around what they know. So I thought about the spine. I introduced a little bit of Hanna Markart's bones and how they look just like, their art and made connections with them. So that was one way I was able to make those connections. I have to say I don't often go out, but I try to educate outside of just my own practice.
Okay.
But if I were and I had a booth at a health expo somewhere, I would have them walk on one of those prints. I'd think about reflexology as I know it, the organ systems, and you can start there. Like, oh, well, that's the area of the lungs. Oh, that's the sinuses. You could ask them, are you having any sinus issues? Because in this print, you're really gripping your toes, which are reflexive to the sinuses. And then if you have more information behind your in your tool belt, you can say, well, that muscle that moves those toes is under a lot of tension, and that is a language that a lot of healthcare professionals have because they know their anatomy and physiology. They can relate to that. So if you can get to a point where you can find common ground, then interject your reflexology training, then they will start to think about what you're doing. We are the best at what we do, reflexologists. Nobody else does it. They don't know how to do it. They don't. It's foreign to them. So you just do it gently, gradually, and the work itself speaks for itself. So they just come back and they'll probably ask you. I get a lot of healthcare professionals that while they're on the table, they want to know everything about reflexology, which is a little distracting. But they get excited. I don't know if that answered your question, Laura, or not.
No, I like what you said about finding common ground, because one of the things that always comes out is how do we explain this? How would we explain this to a physician? How do we explain this to a nurse? And I think starting to say, all right, what do they know already if they're more familiar with talking about muscles, if they're more familiar with talking about the bone structure, okay, this is our entry point, let's say, to then say, okay, from this bone, this is, the corresponding reflex, or this is what I'm noticing from the reflexology perspective.
Right. Yeah. Like, oh, wow, this is very interesting. Yeah, you can do things like that. Invite them in. There will be people that will not bite.
Sure.
They will take a stand, and you can't win them all. And you don't want to even put out too much energy to that person who is not willing or open. Maybe someday they will be. But there will be those people. I'm finding them fewer and fewer in my experience in practicing.
I think one of the great things right now is that clients, the public want solutions. They want help for their problems, and we're bumping up against that. Doctors don't have all the answers. Not that they aren't important. They're very important, but
they are important, and that's a really good point, Laura. Acknowledging them for their specialty is really important. That is because I think what's made a lot of healthcare professionals persnickety about what we do is because they feel slighted. Like, oh, you're saying this doesn't work? Like, they shouldn't come see a doctor? I'm happy to have my healthcare professional, my primary care doctor, or anyone that sews up something on my body if it needs to be sewn. So being sensitive to their profession, acknowledging their skill, is also an opening.
Yeah.
So they don't feel that we're trying to pull one over on them.
Absolutely. Work alongside. We keep using the word integrative, like working alongside, being integrative in, not replacing, not an alternative. Really don't like the word alternative.
No, there is no. I think there's room for every profession anyone feels their heart is drawn to doing. That clarity and that truth is so strong, and when people have a calling to do something, it is strong, and no one wants to be told it's not good enough, or it's not right, or I do this better. It's disturbing. I know. I dated a doctor a long time ago in the 80s, and I was trying to educate him on reflexology. He wouldn't have it, and I felt so insulted. And I said, well, I'm sorry, if you don't believe in what I do, we have no future. And I didn't want anything to do with him because he didn't respect what I did. And in fact, he said, I will never, agree that reflexology is a thing. Well, it's like, well, you just don't know.
No, but it's that mutual respect. So yes. I love your perspective on this, and that's something we're really pushing here in Canada about reflexology working alongside other healthcare professionals, integrating into, the healthcare system. And that really, if we do work alongside other healthcare professionals, it's just better for the public. It's better for people so that they can get relief, they can get the support that they need.
Yes, I agree. I think it's really, really important to be out there working with. I have people that have a team of healthcare professionals. Some of them are working who have some pretty acute situations, but I'm part of that team, and they are including reflexology as part of that, an integral part of their recovery. So I think there's so much value in being integrated, for sure.
All right, let's pivot just a little bit. We're just going to talk. So you're going to be spending 2 days after our conference doing part 1 of your structural reflexology certification program. I believe it's only the second time you've done it in Canada, so we're really, honored that you're teaching this. For those of you who are more interested, there's still space available. Go to reflexologyconference.com. Geraldine will be teaching on Monday, May 25th and Tuesday, May 26th here in Winnipeg. But can you give us an overview of what's part 1 of structural reflexology? What would
you'll be learning the history behind the work, why you do what you do, which is about it's sort of the intro to before we start doing hands-on, but most of it is a hands-on experience. So you're going to be learning a protocol, how to give a structural reflexology session from beginning to end. So it's repetitive. You're going to learn not only the muscles in each zone, but their reflexive value. And also, in the end, you will also be learning a passive mobilization technique to help facilitate further opening of joints. Once the muscles are relaxed and they're not pulling on the joints, this is the opportunity that I take to allow for joints to find a healthier position so that when they walk out of my office, they are firmly walking in their feet. A lot of people walk above their feet because they're in pain, so they walk pensively or tentatively. They walk away oftentimes just feeling completely that their feet are doing their job, so they can let go of a lot of compensation that happens from trying to hover over pain, if you can imagine. That happens with reflexology too, but more dramatically with structural reflexology for sure. And so, yeah, so you will go away with level 1 certificate of participation. There is another level. Level 2 is more, a little bit more in depth, along the same lines, following the zones, muscles within those zones, a little bit more about foot structure and diverted mechanics, what happens to the body that way, sort of tracing issues in the body to the feet. A lot of people end up having surgeries on things in their body, and when I can oftentimes see that it's actually a foot problem that's creating inflammation, causing compensation in other parts of the body. So I talk a little bit about that. We go over prints, doing more prints, reading them. The third level is actually a live lab, public lab. So students work on public clients that have agreed to have their feet worked on, and I talk you through the whole session. And then 50 practice hours will get you your certified structural reflexology practitioner status. So it's a process, and it's I highly encourage that if you do want to do that, the whole series, that you have a basis of reflexology education. So it's easier to learn that way. But it's a great class. It moves fast. People that take the class find that they get results pretty much off the bat. And so you don't have to have 40 years of experience to make an impact in this work. You can learn and practice, and your clients will tell you they feel it.
No, that's exciting. So if you guys are interested, please go to the website, register. There's still spaces available. Make sure everyone who wants to learn, gets the opportunity to learn how to integrate these techniques into your practice. I guess final sort of thought question is maybe on the anatomy physiology side. So you've been talking about it's important to really understand the mechanics of the foot, all of the ligaments, the muscles, the bones.
Well, not all of the ligaments.
Okay.
I only really address a few very important ones.
Okay.
It would be very overwhelming to have to learn all that. I've really broken it down and simplified it a lot more than you can imagine. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted you to know that it's not all the layers. It sounds like forever, when it's said that. It's very simplified. It's step by step. And you also receive a very comprehensive study manual that shows you. I mean, it's here. I've got one right here.
Props.
Very comprehensive. See how thick that is? But I big pictures, I've got, it's very clearly
Okay.
labeled, so you know what to do within each zone. I educate about how the foot really is designed and how it's supposed to move. But I don't think that it's very difficult to pull it all together, even in one class. But you will go home with tools. You'll have that. That's part of the tuition. I do have DVDs that show you how to do it if you want to purchase a DVD. And I also have my books that you can, I have Put Your Best Feet Forward was my first book. Very fun little book. And then my latest is Free Range Feet, Walk with Ease, using structural reflexology. And that one is tabbed so that you can go right to different, like plantar fasciitis, the definition, symptoms, the cause, muscles under strain, weak muscles. And I've outlined all of the, just different things that are happening when you walk. So it's very comprehensive. I'll have some of these available to sell. I don't know. Am I getting a vendor table?
You'll have an opportunity to, so if people come to the conference, you'll have the opportunity to purchase Geraldine's books, whatever you end up bringing for us
so I'll have that stuff there if you're interested. No pressure, but that is available. And those who are studying, who choose to study with me, they're always, good to have for reference. But the study manual itself is very comprehensive as well. And will give you a lot of information.
So I guess then my question, rephrasing, like key takeaway that you really want to impart to therapists in terms of like how to think about or rethink about the foot then. What is like your key takeaway from your experience in structural reflexology? How do you want people to think about or rethink about the foot?
Well, I think it's important to think beyond just the reflexes and understand that reflex activity and is bigger than just pressing a spot on the foot, that there is an overlapping aspect to that spot that involves muscles. Those muscles are reflexive as well, wherever they attach on the foot. So by reflexing the entire muscle associated with a reflex will improve or enhance the mechanics of the foot's ability to provide posture, relaxed posture and movement. And that's why I labeled my last book Free Range Feet. So Free Range Feet is exactly what I hope to my clients will gain working, having had a structural reflexology session. So.
All right. Well then, last final question. What are you most looking forward to, or what excites you most about coming to Winnipeg in May?
Well, I am really excited to look at the area. It sounds like wilderness. Is it wilderness out there?
If you get outside of the city, yeah, you need to drive a little ways. We're situated in a basin with a lot of agricultural land surrounding the city. But if you drive a little ways, you get to the forest. You get to the national park.
Well, I'm really excited to meet new people and just share in our common experience as reflexologists. I think that's always so exciting to me to be. I feel like that I'm in my tribe, honestly. I felt this way when I spoke in Alaska too, that there's a real solidarity that feeds my soul, and I'm looking forward to being part of that again.
I like that. Well, thank you so much, Geraldine, for speaking with me today. I'm so excited to meet you in person in May.
Thank you, Laura.
For everyone, thank you for joining us online. Actually, hold it. Let me just check to see if there was any other questions. Joey did ask a question. The last book that you showed, so I think it was your most recent book. So you said it was Free Range Feet.
Walk with Ease, using structural reflexology.
So
that is, you can find at most bookstores. Amazon. I don't know if you have a Barnes and Noble, but I think millions of books might sell it a little less expensively.
I'll plug
Um,
McNally for those of you in Manitoba and
yeah,
Saskatchewan.
yeah. So
Books.
it's available, I think, at Walmart. I mean, it's in a lot of places.
Okay.
It's available in a lot of places. Yeah.
Excellent. And you're going to be bringing some copies and things that
I'll
people are
bring
interested.
some, but it's a very heavy book.
Fair enough.
I might try to send some by mail.
Sure.
So, because it gets heavy on the plane to bring all my stuff. I mean, when I travel, I bring it all. I mean, I've got my ligament foot,
I
and
love it.
I bring my measuring devices. Um, I've got these big, this foot here that has been all over the world with me,
Oh my goodness.
because it
I
comes
love it.
apart. It's just brilliant. These pegs come apart, and so I can really educate about how the foot looks. So yeah,
Excellent.
thank you.
Well, we're so excited to welcome you. Go check out reflexologyconference.com so you can, book your spot in Geraldine's post-conference workshop. She'll also be speaking during the conference on Sunday, May 24th, in one of the breakout sessions. You'll get to hear her learn about foot assessment. It sounds like it's going to be an awesome seminar while we try. People are going to walk on those mats and we'll look at where all of our pressure is being placed on our feet. So it's
It'll
going
be
to
fun.
it'll be fun. Until next time, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.